grinding. So unless you're as good as Bobby Wagner, getting, almost averaging 10 tackles a game and making other kinds of plays, you don't get your name out there as much. But yeah, it's just a testament to how good he is. The guy's unreal, one of my favorite players. He's awesome.
I like that. All right, man, let's go ahead and talk about this divisional round coming up. I'm really excited for these games. Like, each game I'm looking at, there's not like a game where it's like, I don't know about that one. Each one has some very intriguing matchups. Starting off, let's go ahead and start off with the Vikings 49ers here. So, Vikings 49ers, this is going to be the first game tomorrow, 4:35 start time. I see a lot of analysts. I've been watching ESPN. I've been watching Fox Sports 1. I've been watching all these different sports shows on YouTube and shit like that. And a lot of analysts are now giving the Minnesota Vikings a lot of love, especially with what they was able to do. They was able to go into New Orleans in the Superdome and be able to beat them at their home turf. Now they're traveling to San Fran, and I see a lot of people picking upsets with Minnesota, and I'm not ready to do that. To me, it's still football. It's still very simple in my opinion. I'm looking at San Fran's roster. I'm looking at how they've been playing all season, and then I go over to Minnesota side of the ball, and Minnesota is stacked. They definitely have a good team. However, I'm still not a believer in Kirk Cousins, even though I gave him his props. I gave him his credit for what he did.
Big game, Kirk.
That was, hey, listen, I'm going to give credit where credit's due.
You like that?
I did like that. I like how he brought that out, too. That was pretty dope, man. I got 3 words.
Yeah, that little locker room scene was sweet, man. That was
you
cool.
Like that? Yeah, Kirk, I like that. I like that shit. I ain't gonna lie. But San Fran's defense is phenomenal. They were second in the league in defense all season, yards per game wise. Also, their offense is just a grinded out, pound you down. And then on top of that, Jimmy Garoppolo has played very well throughout this season. The Emmanuel Sanders addition has done wonders for their receiving core. And on top of that, Deebo Samuel, again, this rookie wide receiver class is phenomenal. Deebo Samuel looked fucking phenomenal and has looked awesome all season. And on top of that, they got the best tight end in the game in Criddle, and who does everything: block, run, catch. Just a beast of a man. Kyle Shanahan, the way he has these players playing offensively and the schemes he's able to come up running the ball, I just think is going to be a little bit too much for Minnesota, in my opinion.
So you were talking earlier about a team that you're not really sold on with Minnesota. I was kind of feeling the same way about the 49ers this year, all year. And it's a team that just, they kept winning. They kept playing really well. But for me, that was a team that kind of came out of nowhere, especially in that division. There's been a lot of talk about the Rams, and I don't know. I didn't see this coming. This is not a team that I thought was going to be really good this year. So to me, in my head, when they're out there playing really well, as they were week in and week out, kind of giving it to teams, kind of gave me pause and thinking, I don't know much about them. And I think really the addition of Emmanuel Sanders was huge because it gave him that big play threat.
Yeah.
And that opened up that offense. Another guy you got to talk about is Mostert, Raheem Mostert. Once he started getting regular carries, that's a guy that can just take over a game. I mean, he looks about as good as anybody. I think he led the league in yards per carry in limited carries, but only because he took over the job, I want to say in like week 8 or 9. But that's a guy that looks formidable. But with that being said, I think this is the game that I might be looking forward to the most because I think this is the two most evenly matched opponents. I think you've got a couple of great coaches, a couple of quarterbacks that people are like, they're good, but are they completely sold on them yet? I don't know. Like, Jimmy G's had great record as a starter, and he's looked great at times. But it's very interesting. This game on both sides of the ball for both teams has me very interested. So I'm looking forward to it.
What sold me on the 49ers was, okay, a lot of people would bring up the loss to Atlanta as like a sour point, which, it kind of is. But look at the teams they've beaten. They've beaten the top teams in the NFC. They fucking destroyed Green Bay. And then they went out and had a shootout battle with New Orleans. In New Orleans, albeit, as well, I should say. And was able to outgun them. And then next week they lose to the Atlanta 29-22, which is a letdown game. But at the same time, that's not something that I'm really too worried about. And then on top of that, they was able to pull off the final victory against the Seahawks to secure the number 1 seed in home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So to me, San Fran is battle tested. They've proven to me that they're definitely the number 1 team in the NFC, in my opinion. And I think they've proven that by beating the top teams in the NFC this year. And it's kind of hard for me to see a Minnesota team where, the quarterback position, in my opinion, is still iffy. The rest of their roster is definitely solid. They have a phenomenal receiving core. Dalvin Cook is awesome. Offensive line is solid. And then defensively, those pass rushers can get after you. And on top of that, the secondary is pretty good as well. But at the same time, I just feel like it's just one of those things where San Fran will be able to control the line of scrimmage with their offensive line and their running game. Let Jimmy G not have to be the guy to go out and have to make the play. Just kind of let him do him. You don't have to be the guy to save us the game. Just make a couple of throws here and there. And then I think defensively, that's another thing as well. San Fran's front four is probably the best in the league. Like, that pass rush is stupid. And they just rush 4 guys, and they're able to just drop everybody else back in coverage in the secondary. I think Kirk Cousins is going to have a fucking hell of a time trying to move this ball, and I think he's going to throw a couple of picks, and I think it's going to get real ugly.
Yeah, man. I think Bosa is tremendous. He's a phenomenal athlete.
D Ford is back.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, those guys up front are definitely very tough, and I think maybe more than anything, I kind of talked a little bit earlier about there's a lot of different ways to win in the NFL. And the 49ers, they've won all those different ways all year. Early in the year, they were, more heavily reliant on their defense that looked very dominant. They've at times just run over teams with, Mostert and Breida and the rest of the guys there. And then other times, like you talked about with the Saints, they can beat you in a shootout too. Throwing to Kittle and Sanders and Samuel. It's an interesting team. Don't get me wrong. Just for me, where was this team? This team wasn't that good last year, right? So this is that team for me that came out of nowhere that I still kind of need that period of, okay, is this team legit? I wasn't as willing to jump right on their bandwagon away, yeah. Right? You have a little sustained success, and I'll be like, yeah, absolutely. And I give them all the credit in the world for winning all those games. Just for me, it was just very fast to just crown them. You know what I mean?
To crown them and crown their asses.
Crown their asses, but they are who we thought they were.
Right.
Yeah. So right now, they are who I thought they were. We'll see where they're at.
Okay. What's the spread on this game? Let me look that up real quick. But ultimately, who do you got? What you thinking? Let me get a prediction and a score if you can.
So this is tough because I think if there's going to be an upset, I think it's here. You'd like to think as you're looking at the 4 games over the weekend, at least one of them will be an upset. I think it could come from this game, and I think I'm going to go with it. I'm sticking with what I thought.
Wow.
The Vikings are really tough. I think the Vikings beat the 49ers, and I think it might be a little bit more low scoring than we thought. I'm going to call it like 27-24 Vikings. That's my one upset pick for the weekend.
San Fran -7. 44.5 is the over-under. Yeah, I'm rolling with San Fran. Like, I think this is going to be, I think it's going to be a blowout.
I'll say San Fran at home it's super tough going in there, right? I think the Vikings are that team. I really do. I really think their roster is that good up and down. I like Mike Zimmer. I know I like Kirk more than you do. So
yeah,
we'll see. This is the game I'm most looking forward to. But I'd be lying to you if I would be just going with what everybody else is saying if I picked the 49ers here. So I really think the Vikings are better than people are giving them credit for, and I think they win a close one.
I respect it, man. I respect it. I'm going to go San Fran myself, and I'm going with a score of like 35-13. I think they kind of handle this game pretty easily. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's a good game. And if Minnesota was to pull off an upset, I wouldn't be mad at it, man. I want Kirk to prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Shut me up, man. I want to keep hearing that. Do you like that? I want to like it more.
I love the story. I think they're my favorite story of the teams that are left, right? A team that was, close to winning a couple years ago, had the Minnesota Miracle or Minneapolis Miracle. It was awesome to watch. the team kind of fizzled a little bit last year in Kirk's first year, and this year they're out, and everybody's healthy, and they look like they could do some damage. So that's where I'm at.
Damn, Minnesota did fuck New Orleans twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Yeah, big time. And we didn't talk about that at all, that little push-off.
Yeah, did you think they should have called a foul on that?
I don't know, man. It's so hard. Like, by the absolute letter of the law, he pushed off to gain separation, right? I mean, there's no doubt about that. He, with his hand, put it in the middle of the dude's chest. And extended it and shoved him off of him, creating enough separation to make the catch. But I think, I don't know, at that point in the game, with it not being called on the field, I don't think there's any way the offices in New York or whatever could possibly overrule that.
Yeah, I agree.
In that situation, game ending, I think it would have been better for optics had they at least paused to take a look at it and came back and said there was some hand fighting or whatever, and it's not enough to overturn the call on the field, which was no pass interference. I think that would have been fine. But I kind of didn't like the way they just, what was it like? It felt like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, no, nothing's there. We're good. Move on.
The play was reviewed as a touchdown.
Motherfucker, when did you have time to review that? When did you review that? It was 30 seconds later.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I think it's the right call ultimately. I don't think you can overturn that. They'll probably take another look at the rule book in the offseason, because I think it was a mess how they handled that all year, to be honest.
Yeah.
The first 10 weeks of the season, there were 0 overturned, and then they flip a switch and they say, okay, we got to overturn a couple of these. Right. We're looking a little transparent here. So there's that. And I just think it's horrible to be a Saints fan right now. That's as brutal and agonizing as it gets to be one of the best teams in your conference 3 years in a row. Miracled to get Roby Coleman and now to get Kyle Rudolph all on the last plays of the game. That's just brutal, man. Awful.
They got to be
just snake bitten.
Somebody put some voodoo down
there. Yeah, seriously, in that bayou down there in New Orleans, someone in the French Quarter or the whatever that's called down there, that area, they're cooking up something for him, a bad juju or something,
Mm-hmm. And it ain't gumbo. Yeah, I agree with you on that one as well. It's just one of those things where, how they called on the field is how they should have left it, and I think that's what they did. Plus, on top of that, you got a 6'6" dude going against a 6'1" dude. Like, what do you expect to happen?
Yes, and that's why I'm not saying that they should have overturned neither. Not to mention the fact that what I remember from it is the announcer, who I can't remember who the announcer was, but during the game, he circled the guy. He circled Kyle Rudolph before the play started. He said, Kyle Rudolph off top, in isolation, there he is. Circle him. And then you've got this little corner on him, who, by the way, never turned. Like, once you see that he's not going to the inside, once you see that it's not going to be some kind of a slant or post route, you have to know, if anything, it's going to be a fade. There's no other room on the sideline. Turn your head. So he was face guarding him, and you're not going to face guard Kyle Rudolph, you know? So
exactly.
So the Saints had plenty of opportunities. By the way, you always take those last plays of the game and you take them more to heart because they're more important, because they happen at the last moment and it's your last opportunity to do something. But they had plenty of chances throughout the game. Drew Brees stumbling back, lost his first fumble of the season. I think that's some stuff. I mean, if we're talking snake bitten, Drew Brees fumbles for the first time all year in the most important game. Will Lutz misses a field goal for the first time in 7 years, right? 19 in a row or something he had hit, and he misses one. There are a lot of ways the Saints lost that game.
Yeah, they did. Man, that's tough. All right. Shit, we got off a little bit off track there. All right, so let's get back. So the next game on the slate there, so we gave our picks for the Vikings and 49ers. Next pick here, next game, I should say, Titans against Ravens. And then, so Baltimore going into this game is a 9.5-point favorites at home, 14-2 throughout the season. And Titans coming off that huge win in New England and potentially ending the New England dynasty. Okay. Now, this is what I wanted to get off my chest. Okay. All week long, I should say, I've been hearing the analysts talk, and I've been watching First Take. I've been watching Fox Sports 1. I've been watching First Things First and Skip and Shannon and all those shows. And it kind of made me realize what I've been kind of realizing all season is that if you want to know about a game or about a team, you can't listen to these fucking TV analysts.